Welcome to the Crazy Cool Family Podcast with Don and Suzanne Manning. Parents, what if we could give you the power to transform your family into something absolutely amazing?
A family where everyone is healthy, gets along, loves Jesus, and has great purpose in life.
Hey, let us flip your thinking to unlock the power God has given you to create your own Crazy Cool family. Hello, parents. Welcome to 2020. We just keep rolling into 2020, this new decade. What a great new decade it's going to be.
We have so many things we want to share with you this decade.
Yes.
Maybe just this year.
Yeah.
Maybe just this month. Maybe just this week.
10 years we're going to share with you.
Today.
Yeah,
Be prepared to listen for this podcast for hours.
I was just thinking when I'm 10 years from now, I'm going to be really
old.
I'm going to be close to retirement.
Yeah, that is old.
Retirement age. Oh my goodness. So,
You're already a grandpa, so you're already old.
Exactly. She's calling me old. I can't do the same thing back to her.
I'm old too. I'm a granny.
Hey, parents, we have a great subject for you today.
Yeah, one that a lot of parents talk to us about. I remember doing our class at church and several parents coming up afterwards and asking us, how do you get your kids to respect you?
Yes. And so often the kids would yell at them or
hit them. I mean, I've had several parents say, what do you do when your kid hits you?
Or they run away from them or, there's yelling and fights and, and things like that. And we have learned over time how to, I believe we have the respect of our kids.
Oh, for sure. That was definitely one of the things that I demanded and expected when they were little. Like I would not tolerate them being rude or disrespectful. And then you in turn wouldn't either. If for some reason they did yell at me or whatever, you would jump in.
Yeah, you don't bow up to the queen, at all. I mean, and for me too. I mean, one of the things that if they ever got really upset, I mean, that, with us where they would want to yell and scream or whatever. I mean, it was just in our house, it's been, just not acceptable to make that happen, definitely. But we were thinking about, that's one thing to control it and to say, no, you're going to respect me. We're not going to tolerate that type of stuff. But how do you get your kids to respect you and to have it be a natural thing that happens?
Want to respect you, choose to respect you.
Because kids do want to respect their parents. No kid I've ever seen says, oh, I'm so glad my dad is disrespectful, I don't respect him or whatever. No kid ever says that. They all want parents they could admire. They want parents they can be proud of. Think about it. If you had a parent that you were kind of embarrassed to have your parent come into the ball game or whatever it was, nobody wants that.
Well, and respect means to esteem and to honor, to have favor, to have consideration for. And so we want that. We all want to walk in that wherever we go, whether it's our role at work or at church or as a neighbor but most importantly in our family, we want to be respected.
Right.
And to do that, we have to give respect.
That's right. And so we want to give you two key points today that we want you to take with you that'll go so far into helping you to be the kind of parent that your kids will respect. And we want you to earn the respect of your kids. And those 2 points start out with what she was just saying. The first one is to give them respect.
Yeah, we have to respect our kids first. We are the ones that are showing them what respect looks like in a relationship with them. And so when we treat them with respect, then all they know is to treat us back with respect. They are mirroring how we respond to them back to us.
Yeah, it's even subconscious. If they are instilled with you respecting them, then they in turn, even subconsciously, that's what I do to people.
Exactly.
I respect them because I've been respecting them. And a couple ways that you can do that, very practical things you can do is one is to respect their time.
Have you ever had a child that's in the middle of building a Lego something or blocks, whatever it is that they're playing with building, and then it's time for you to go. And maybe you didn't manage your time well and you're running late and you've got to get out the door to get to the doctor.
That never happens with us.
It always happens with me. And so you all of a sudden go into crisis mode and you go in there and you tell the kid, we've got to go right now. Find your shoes. You've got to go. Well, you have created a scene where you are not actually extending respect to your child for them them
that.
to
You gotta
wrap
pick
up what
that
they're
up right
doing.
now. You got to put it away right
Right
now
now.
and go.
And so then now you've created some resistance from your child. You've now made a place where they're going to respond with disrespect to you because they're not getting what.
Yeah, maybe they throw a fit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're yelling, screaming, I want to play with my toys or whatever that
Yeah.
is. And so in the very beginning, if you will extend that, hey, guys, I made a mistake and we're supposed to be at the doctor's office right now and we're running late. When we get home, you can play with your toys, but right now we've got to get in the car. And so grab your shoes. And now you've invited them onto your side, onto your team, and you guys can all together be in a hurry.
Well, and also, you did a great job with the kids of saying, hey, in 10 minutes, we're going to go.
Give them that buffer time for
Yeah.
them to change gears from doing what they want to do to what you want to do.
One of the things I found, parents with 7 kids, is I was only as good as my slowest kid to get everybody out the door. So it was this massive, hey, 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes. And so, but invariably one of them was going to be a little bit slower than the 10 minutes. But parents, you can really show respect to your kids by just respecting their time, treating them as people, which is the second point. Respect their time. And it relates to this is respect their personhood. They are, your mom used to say all the time, Suzanne, they're just little people.
They're just little people. And if we can change that to see them as actually a real life person and not somebody that we're in charge of and we've got to control and we have to take care of and they're needy and high maintenance, if we can change that to they're just a person, they're just smaller than we are. Little human. That's what Madeline says.
Exactly.
They're just a little human.
Yeah, and they really are. And they have feelings and they have emotions and they have ideas.
And agendas.
Yes, they do. But it one of the things that just infuriates me when I'm around parents, and it infuriates me when I do it too, and I wanted to get it out of my life because of that, is when a parent is talking to someone else and talking to them just nicely and is just
possibly
being
even a stranger.
gracious.
I mean, it
Yes.
might be a friend, but it could be the
At
postman.
church or
Yeah.
and whatever. And then their kid comes up and they treat them like
Dirt.
an idiot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, and they talk down to him, and it's like, you're interrupting me, or, and it's just, the tone just changes so much. Well, guess what? That parent, and I've been guilty of it, so I'm not saying that, I've never done it, but I really don't like to do it, and I don't like to see it happen, is where you are just showing that child such disrespect.
And so you have to you're going to get that right back. Know that the child's going to talk just as rudely back to you as you are to them because it's all they know. It's
Right.
they think that's how you're supposed to interact. So they're going to.
So think about that, parents. You're actually training your child to disrespect you, and by when you are disrespectful to the child. Now, let's roll all this up with a caveat that says you still get to be the parent. And you're going to make mistakes, and sometimes these things are going to happen, and sometimes you are late, like Suzanne says, and things have to happen. But you know what? When it becomes the norm rather than the exception, you're going to train your child to disrespect you.
Well, and one of the keys to know if you are talking in a disrespectful way to your child is if they are talking that way to you. And if you feel disrespected, if you feel like every time your child talks to you, you want to punish them or give them a consequence, then chances are you've trained them to do that. And so just take a step back. It's never too late. Kids are
Right.
so resilient. Just take a step back and choose to talk differently to them.
Choose
and
to
if
respect them.
Yeah, and if you don't know how to talk to your child because you've got yourself in a pattern of talking rudely to them, then think about how you talk to your best friend or how you talk to the Amazon
So
person
good.
when they drop off a package, just think about that and maybe even see your child as that for a little while until you can get your tone retrained to talk to them with respect.
And so I'm sure this isn't true, but if you talk to everybody rudely,
That's another podcast for another day.
No, it's going to lead us into our next topic,
that's
which
true.
is to
Sorry.
I was so
You're too messed up. I'm sorry. It was such a good transition.
And so you got to give them respect, but you also have to be a person they respect. That's the second point, is you want to give them respect and you want to be a person they respect. And we say in our book, we have a whole section of this in our book, Crazy Cool Family. But one of the things that we say to parents all the time is that more important than any instruction we will give to our children is the example we will provide for our children. More important than any instruction we will give to our children is the example we will provide for our children.
And so they're watching you. I mean, they're watching us. They're watching how we drive and how we talk to the drivers around us and what that looks like. If we by chance get pulled over by a police officer, they are watching how we interact with authorities. And if we're rude, or parents, they're listening to you. If you're talking bad about people and you're gossiping or whatever that is, if you're not showing respect to others, they're watching you.
Yeah, and so, the great
Watching
evangelist D.L. Moody says this. He says, a man ought to live so that everyone knows he's a Christian, and most of all, his family ought to know. Now, that's pretty convicting. But I want to go down this path with you. We want to go down this path with you that says that leads parents to think, oh, I have to be perfect. And really, it's not that at all. When we've talked to our 7 kids about what happened and how, and what was it, and why did they respect us, and why do they, it wasn't about us being perfect. It was about, first of all, we were honest with them about our walk with Jesus, and we shared our lives with them.
Yep.
And you think, oh my goodness, I can't share my failures with my kids because then they won't respect me. But in actuality, God loves relationship. And he loves the honesty and the compassion, and he loves the what's the word I'm looking for?
Authenticity.
Yeah, there you go. Of the relationship. And so when you are honest with your kids,
with the victories and the struggles.
Yeah. So for example, I might come in and say, hey kids, I got a big deal going at work. I want you to pray with me about it. Or I'm struggling with this relationship. Maybe I told them who it was. Maybe I didn't, depending on how old they were and whether they could handle it or not. But, hey, I want you to pray with me about this. I'm struggling. I'm really frustrated with this person or whatever. And we found as we talked to our kids when they were older, they remembered those things. When we involved them in our lives, in the successes and the failures of our relationship with God and relationship with others.
Yeah, and it created opportunities for them to see us and how we interact with others in a respectful way.
Right.
And so not only were they seeing us being respectful to them, but they're also seeing us be respectful to others.
Yeah, and so maybe it might be even, I remember one time, I can remember this pretty clearly. There was I was coaching a baseball team with one of my sons. And I lost it on another coach, and I was just not very kind to that coach at all because he was being a jerk actually, but that's another story. But it was all his fault, of course. But but I walked back to my car, and I can remember walking back to the car, a long walk, around the ball field, and getting to the car and going, I don't get to do that, and so I got my son was with me, and we walked back to that man, and I just said, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I should not have reacted like that. Those are the kind.
Well, I remember one time too when you were coaching basketball and a parent came and just unloaded on you. Do you remember that?
Oh,
and
yeah.
I was so proud of how you responded. And the son that was standing with you, I remember him getting in the car saying, "Dad, you were so calm. You were so cool. You were so gracious." I don't think he used the word gracious, but that was what you were. You were so gracious to that parent that unloaded on you.
Well, we think that, if we're real with our kids, so many parents want to hide their failures from their kids and hide their lives from their kids. But actually, when you share with your kids, again, age appropriate, and you got to hear the Lord in it, but that brings respect for them. I mean, they see you in action, even with your failures.
For sure.
And
and how you the only way to fix a failure is forgiveness. And so you just go in and either ask forgiveness, or like you did, you walked over to the other coach and asked forgiveness. You showed your kids that. You give your kids forgiveness when you're not ask from them forgiveness when you're not respecting them. And that turns a failure into a success.
And you certainly don't have to be perfect, parents. Please don't hear that. Please hear that, I should say. But also, it does mean that you're pursuing God wholeheartedly.
Right.
If you're going to try to be a person that is not pursuing God, and yet you want your kids to pursue God, guess what? Our kids don't like and they don't respect hypocrites. And a hypocrite is not someone who is not perfect. A hypocrite is someone who tries to hide things.
Says one thing and does another.
Yeah, and is trying to hide that with their kids and everything else. So, but if you will just walk, And what does that mean? It just means taking your next step on your journey with Jesus. It just means that you are trying to hear God and to do what he says.
Well, and with pursuing God, he's going to give you respect. Well, he's going to give you respect for sure, but he's going to give you supernatural wisdom that you can't even explain.
Yeah.
And children respect wisdom. They respect it, and they honor it, and they value it when we can speak into their lives or their situation with something that is beyond our even understanding, because it's God's wisdom. It's his insight into the situation.
We tell parents a lot, it's not about perfection, but direction. If you will walk in the direction of the Lord. I mean, when my kids were little, even today, I make less mistakes, I hope, today than I did, 20 years ago.
Now, the last mistake you made, we were trying to think back to the one you'd made before that, and we couldn't even remember.
Oh, yeah. But the trouble was the last one was last night. But when you are walking with the Lord and your direction is towards Jesus wholeheartedly, your kids are going to see that. My kids have seen in us, our kids have seen in us learn to follow Jesus more and more over time. That's really all they want. And they still see us make mistakes, and they still see us, and we still share what we're working on with them and things like that. And actually, as they get older, it becomes even better, because they're working on their own relationship with God, and you're starting to be more of a peer versus the top down approach, so to speak. But really, it comes down to pursuing God wholeheartedly. We've said two things with this. To be a person they respect. One of them is to share our lives with them.
Right.
And actually sharing will gain more respect than trying to hide it from them. And the second thing is just to pursue God wholeheartedly.
With all you've got.
Yeah, and don't worry about your mistakes, because God's not worried about them. He loves you. He loves you. Your identity is secure in him. And if you can know that and live out of that, and you are okay with it, hey, sometimes I'm going to fail, but I'm going to point in this direction. I'm going to go for it. Guess what? That's going to be a person. That's going to be a father. That's going to be a mother that your 7-year-old is going to look at and be proud of.
Right.
And be respectful of, and say, you know what, parents, let's wrap this up and say, what if your kids are looking at you going, that's my dad.
Right.
That's my mom. That's what we want them to say, right? We want them to look at us when we come in the gym. We want them to be running up to us going, hey, Dad, hey, guys, this is my dad, or this is my mom. And even all through every age, they can, even in the teenage years when they're wanting to separate a little bit, if you're that person, they will want you in there, right?
Right. And it goes back to wrapping it up, and that starts with you saying, right, that's my kid. That's my teenager. Yeah. That's my daughter. That's my son. And I'm so proud of you. That's what God said to Jesus as he came up out of the water after he was baptized. This is my son with whom I love. I am well pleased. And that's the foundation of respect, is if you can see your child as that's my son. I'm so proud. I love you. You give that. You pursue God. Ask what he needs. Ask him to give you what you need. Then you are on the road to respect.
So how do you get your kids to respect you? We gave you two things. Give them respect and be a person they respect. Hope you get a lot out of this today, a lot to work on, but remember, God deals in a long time. So just keep working.
So start with today's opportunity that's presented to you.
And at the end of the decade,
exactly.
At the end of the decade, you'll be amazing.
You'll be amazed.
Yeah. Hey, go be crazy parents, crazycoolfamily.com.